They used to call me bonus dad. That was the word. Polished, polite, the kind of label that looks good in social media captions and thank you speeches. The kind that sounds like affection but tastes like distance. Carol said it first. Lauren's daughter. My stepdaughter. She'd smile when she said it. Not warmly, not cruelly. Just enough to keep me on the hook. Like a car salesman who calls you boss before handing you the bill. Bonus dad, she said, when I helped her move into her dorm. Bonus dad. When I drove across state lines in a snowstorm to bring her a spare set of keys. Bonus dad. When I paid the last $1,000 on her spring tuition because she'd forgotten the due date and her father, her real father, was unreachable again. Bonus, like I was some upgrade. Something optional. Something she could take or leave depending on how much it cost. But I didn't complain. I let it slide. I smiled at the name. I told myself it meant inclusion. That I was part of something, even if that something never made room for me. Lauren would say things like, "She's warming up to you," or "She's just independent. Give her time." So I gave time, and money, and weekends, and silence. 6 years of giving. Until the showroom. It was a Saturday in June. The kind of hot that clings to your back and burns through your shirt. Carol had just graduated, and Lauren wanted to help her get settled in a new loft. Something close to work, something modern. I offered to co-sign, to pitch in on furniture. I was never asked, not directly, but I offered anyway, because that's what you do when you want to be chosen. Downtown Atlanta. The showroom was all glass and exposed steel. Fake brick walls. Vintage rugs that cost more than my first car. I followed behind as Carol walked ahead, one hand flicking through swatches of fabric, the other texting without looking up. She never asked what I thought. Never looked to me for input. I was the wallet, not the partner. The salesman, tall guy, neat beard, tight polo, made small talk with her. Asked what kind of vibe she wanted. Boho chic? Industrial? Soft modern? Carol smiled, leaned against the nearest couch, and said it loud enough for everyone in the section to hear. Just pick the most expensive couch, he'll pay. No hesitation. No irony. Just fact. He'll pay. Not my stepdad will cover it, not let me check with him, not even thank you. Just he'll pay, like I was a faceless card swipe. A bank account with legs. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the back of her head. She didn't look at me. She kept flipping through catalog pages like I wasn't even in the room. I didn't say a word. Didn't make a scene. Didn't ask if Lauren had heard. She had. She just looked away. I walked out. My legs moved on their own. Out the glass doors, past the valet stand, into the furnace of the parking lot. I climbed into the car, locked the doors, turned on the AC, and stared at my hands on the wheel like they didn't belong to me. My phone buzzed with a confirmation code. I opened the store's app, the same app I'd used to approve the purchase. I canceled the order. Sofa, dining set, bed frame, all gone. And then I sat there. 10 minutes. Maybe more. No one came outside. No calls. No messages. No questions. Not where did you go? Not are you okay? Not even thanks for offering. Just silence. That's when it started. The catalog of everything I had done. Every receipt. Every loan. Every yes I'd said when I should have said, "Ask your real dad." Security deposit for her first apartment? Me. Used Honda Civic when hers broke down? Me. Car insurance? Me. Books. Groceries. A new laptop when hers got stolen? Me. Every time Todd, her father, the one with the excuses and the Instagram perfect vacation photos, forgot her birthday or sent a card without cash. I made up the difference. I didn't do it for thanks. At least that's what I used to tell myself. But sitting in that parking lot, sweating through my shirt, staring at the blank screen of my phone, I realized something ugly. I had wanted thanks. I had wanted acknowledgement. I wanted someone, her, Lauren, anyone, to look me in the eye and say, "You matter here. You're not just the check." But all I got was, "He'll pay." It echoed in my head. He'll pay. He'll pay. It was never, "He's helping." Never, "He cares." Just, "He pays." I didn't drive home. Not right away. I drove around the city for hours, past gas stations and billboards and the neighborhoods I used to work in before the promotion. I thought about the time I worked through a flu just to cover Carol's housing deposit on time. The way she smiled when the money came through. The way she didn't say thank you. Lauren always said, "She's not expressive. She doesn't show emotion like that." But I'd seen her cry over concert tickets. I'd seen her scream with joy when Todd sent her a message. A 2-line text after 6 months of silence. I saw the way she beamed when he liked one of her Instagram photos. I saw what real love looked like. And I saw who she gave it to. It wasn't me. I was convenient. I was dependable. I was invisible. A man waiting on the edge of a family that never let him in. I got home late that night. Lauren was in bed, reading. She didn't ask how the day went. She didn't mention the showroom. She just said, "Hey." That was all. No curiosity. No concern. I stared at her for a long second, then walked past into the office, sat down, opened a spreadsheet, started typing. Every expense, every transfer, every gift, every loan, every tuition check. 3 years. $32,463. I didn't make the list to guilt anyone. I made it because I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined it, that I had, in fact, given and given and given, and gotten nothing in return. It wasn't just a moment. It was the conclusion. People think anger is loud, explosive, a slammed door, a raised voice, but real anger, the kind that comes after years of sacrifice. It's quiet, cold, calcifies. After the showroom, something inside me hardened. Not in rage, in clarity. I'd been holding the center of a house that never made room for me, financing a future that never included my name. Every gesture I made was invisible until the moment I withheld it. Then suddenly I mattered, not as a man, as a provider. I left the spreadsheet open for 3 days, not to punish anyone. I didn't print it, didn't leave it on the counter like some bitter ultimatum. I left it open for myself so I wouldn't forget. I had forgotten for too long. Forgotten that love without acknowledgement becomes servitude. That no matter how much you give, it means nothing if they expect it. Entitlement erases gratitude. And Carol was entitled. I sat across from Lauren the next night, at the kitchen counter. The house was quiet. She was pouring wine, humming something under her breath. I waited until she looked at me, really looked. "I'm done," I said. She blinked. "Done with what?" I didn't answer right away. I reached for the laptop, turned the screen toward her. The spreadsheet glowed between us. Rows of numbers, dates, categories, years of quiet sacrifice cataloged like debt. Her face changed. Not shock, not shame, just exhaustion. "Is this supposed to prove something?" she asked. "No," I said. "It's supposed to remind me." She set the wine glass down a little too hard. "You're overreacting." Carol was joking. That couch comment, it was careless, sure, but she didn't mean it like that. I nodded slowly. "Maybe, but that's how she sees me. That's how she's seen me for years. A man who pays and shuts up." "She's stressed," Lauren said. "It's a big transition. She's scared, and when people are scared, they lash out. Don't take it personally." "But it is personal," I said. "She said it about me. In front of strangers. You didn't say a word. No one did. And you're still not saying it now. Because it's not worth burning everything down over," she snapped. "No," I said. "But it's worth waking up for." She looked at me, eyes narrowing. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, "I'm not going to keep paying for a role nobody wants me in. If I'm not family, really not, then I'm not financing her life anymore." Silence fell between us. That kind of silence that isn't waiting to be filled. Just static. Just truth. She stood up, walked to the sink, rinsed her glass. "So what now?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "Let her figure it out." I didn't expect to fight. I didn't expect understanding either. What I got was worse. Indifference. She didn't ask me to reconsider. Didn't protest. She just let it sit. Like it wasn't even surprising. That was the final straw. Not Carol's insult. Not the years of being treated like a bonus with a PIN number. Lauren's silence. That's what ended it. Because silence is permission. And she'd been giving permission for a long time. The next morning, I opened the finance app. Removed Carol's name from the authorized users list. No more rent transfers. No more emergency fund. The automatic payment for her car insurance gone. I didn't tell her. I didn't warn her. I just stopped. Not out of spite. Out of principle. She had made her view of me clear. He'll pay. He always pays. So I stopped paying. And the silence that followed, it was louder than any apology. Days passed. Lauren tiptoed around it. She asked about dinner, about errands, about bills, but never about Carol. She knew. You can't live with a man for 6 years and not notice when something leaves him. Something left me that week. Not love. Not even anger. Expectation. I no longer expected gratitude, or affection, or even acknowledgement. I expected nothing. And for the first time, I felt free. A week later, she texted me. Carol. 2 sentences. No greeting. No punctuation. Sleeping on an air mattress. It wasn't supposed to be like this. That was it. No mention of the couch. No mention of the store. No apology. No thanks. Just discomfort. And expectation. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard, feeling nothing. Not rage. Not pity. Just quiet certainty. I replied, "You're an adult. You have a father. Let him help." Sent. No typing bubbles. No reply. Silence. It wasn't spite. It was peace. For 6 years, I had paid out of a reservoir I didn't know was drying up. Out of hope. Really hope that if I gave enough, showed up enough, sacrificed enough, someone would finally say, "You're part of this family." Carol accepted the money. She accepted the rides, the coverage, the couch, but not the man. Never the man. Never the one who stood quietly in the background, holding up the edges of her life like scaffolding she refused to see. And now the scaffolding was gone. Lauren didn't ask about the text until the 3rd day. We were eating dinner in silence, the kind of silence that tasted like overcooked meat and unsaid things. She pushed her plate away and said, "So, are you leaving us?" Not me. Not "I want to talk." Not "we need to fix this." Just that. "Are you leaving us?" I wiped my mouth and looked at her for a long time. Not because I needed to think. I'd already thought. I just wanted to see if she flinched. If she looked scared. If any part of her still felt what I was feeling. She didn't. I said, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm just done paying for a role nobody wants to acknowledge." She winced, just a little. Her shoulders tightened. Her eyes dropped to her lap. I think that's when she understood. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't about the couch. It was about the lie we had both agreed to live in. She nodded, slowly, almost like permission, or surrender. Then she whispered, "Can we go back to how things were?" That made me laugh. Not loud. Just once. A breath that turned bitter halfway out. "How things were," I said. "You mean me paying quietly while your daughter rolls her eyes? Me cleaning up after Todd's failures while you call it complicated? You mean me swallowing disrespect like it's part of the job description?" She said nothing. She didn't have to. "I'm not against family," I told her. "But family isn't a bill. It's a choice." And that's when she cried. Quietly. The way you cry when you know the tears won't change a thing. Not this time. She reached across the table. I didn't pull away. But I didn't hold her hand either. I let her feel the distance. The one she helped create. The days that followed were different. Carol didn't reach out again. No couch arrived. No thank you card. No guilt-laced phone call pretending to check in. Just that one text, now fossilized in my phone. A tiny monument to her expectation. And my refusal. Lauren moved slower. She stopped offering excuses. She cooked, cleaned, did her chores. But the warmth was gone. Or maybe now we both just noticed it had been gone for years. I didn't bring up the spreadsheet. I didn't need to. She had seen the math. She had felt the subtraction. I started coming home later, sitting in the driveway longer, turning the music up louder before I stepped inside. Not because I hated her, because I didn't want to be needed anymore. I had given everything to be seen as something more than convenient. And when that didn't happen, I stopped giving. The balance was shifting. They felt it. So did I. And that was the point. Since then, I don't buy love. I don't pay for proximity. I don't fund relationships in hopes they'll become real. I don't carry grown people across bridges they refuse to walk themselves. What I offer now is presence if someone wants it, if they see it, if they respect it. Carol hasn't asked for a dime since the air mattress. Weeks passed, then months. I didn't reach out. Neither did she. And that silence, it didn't ache. It healed. I stopped tracking her life. I stopped asking Lauren for updates. I stopped wondering if she'd ever apologize, or if that text was her version of one. Because the truth is, I didn't need an apology. I needed distance. And I finally had it. Then, one day, a message. From Carol. No money involved. No crisis. Just this. Coffee this weekend? Just you and me. No emoji. No guilt. No request. Just an invitation. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say. Because I didn't feel the need to say anything at all. I went. We sat outside. Neutral ground. No expectations. A cafe on Peachtree, the kind with cold brew in mason jars and too many conversations about startup funding in the background. She looked older. Not in her face. In her posture. Like the weight of the last few months had finally settled into her bones. She said thank you before anything else. Just that. And it wasn't for the money. It wasn't about the past. It was for the silence. For the space. For letting her fall without cushioning the blow. I needed it, she said. I just didn't know I did. I nodded. Not because I forgave her, but because I understood. She didn't say, I'm sorry. Not outright. But that's fine. Sometimes regret shows up as clarity. Sometimes the lesson costs more than the item. We talked for an hour. Nothing deep. Nothing dramatic. I paid for the coffee not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And then I left. I didn't ask when we'd meet again. I didn't expect a follow-up. I walked away knowing I wasn't her father. Not in the way she once defined it. But I had become something else. Not the ATM. Not the bonus. A man she could meet as an equal or not at all. That was enough. Lauren never asked about the coffee. She knew I went. She didn't protest. But she didn't ask what we said. There was distance there too now. Measured. Mutual. Like two people living in a house that had stopped pretending to be a home. I started doing more things alone. Walks in the morning. Long drives on Sunday evenings. Sometimes I'd come home and find Lauren watching old videos on her phone. Carol's birthdays, family holidays, Christmases from 5 years ago when everyone was still pretending we were something we weren't. She never looked up when I walked in. She just hit replay. I think that's when I realized the grief had finally caught up to her. Not for me. For the version of her daughter she used to believe in. And maybe for the version of me she'd been too afraid to defend. But I didn't hold it against her. Not anymore. Because grief has no villain. It just takes its due. And now, so did I. They say family is what you make of it. But I've learned something else. Family is not a word. It's not blood. It's not a shared roof or matching last names. It's behavior. It's how someone speaks to you when you say no. It's how they show up when you have nothing to offer. It's whether they see you as a person or just a resource. That day in the showroom, Carol revealed the truth. But the truth was always there. In every rolled eye, every sigh, every time Lauren said, "That's just how she is." Every time I was asked to be a provider and never a parent. So here's what I've learned. I am not a bank account with a wedding ring. I am not a reward for someone else's failed marriage. I am not a cushion for entitled children to land on. If I am to be a father, it is because someone chooses me. Fully. Without conditions. Without price tags. And if they won't, then maybe it's okay if they sleep on the floor.